What if I told you the first Descendant had more than just Ultimate Bunny and there was a whole cash shop full of maid outfits? Probably even suits too, but for some reason I can't remember what those look like. So today we're going to go over all the characters launching with the first Descendant. That way you can hopefully find the perfect one to grind for and at least get a general idea of what everything can do. I also made sure to take screenshots of every character with all of their exclusive modifiers and how every ability scales. These are class mods very similar to Warframe that change the way each ability works and can drastically change the playstyle of each character. We didn't get every single one of these in the beta, so I can't showcase each one individually, but it should give you a good enough idea of what they all do. I personally invested most of my time into Lepic, Gley, and Valby, and I had my friends do more advanced testing on the others so we could have a better understanding of everything, so I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone involved in helping me create the Ultimate First Descendant guide. This Google Doc has a small write-up for every single character and screenshots of all their ability scaling and exclusive class mods. This also has like everything else you'll need to know about the game, and the main reason I always do big guides like this is for my community, just as like a thank you for all the love and support y'all always give me. Like, I genuinely appreciate it, so this is just like my way of trying to give back to you guys. So like, again, just thank you for all the love and generosity you always show me. Hopefully this helped you guys get into the first Descendant. And again, if you guys think that there's something missing that should be in there that like I just missed, just let me know down below. Working together with all of you has always been a pleasure, and it's the main reason my community always gets super far ahead. So make sure you join my Discord. That's where I announce everything first. That's where I put all my guides first, and that's usually where I pull all my information from. But for now, we're lighting this off with how characters work. They all have 4 exclusive mods each, but Ultimates get 6. We won't know what bonus 2 Ajax, Gley, and Bunny have because they weren't in the last test, and after launch, I'll just grab the 2 extra and put them in the Google Doc right away. Ultimate characters also have slightly higher stat lines and come with a few polarized mod slots already, and polarized mod slots basically just make any mod slotted into them cost half as much as long as they match the polarity / affinity or whatever you want to call it. These are basically just the equivalent to a prime Warframe if you play Warframe before. The grind for Ultimate Descendants is also a lot longer than normal ones because the key components have a very low drop chance compared to the regular versions, but the normal versions will work just fine if you don't want to spend the money. You're not at a massive disadvantage if between the normal and the ultimate one. It's just that if you plan on maining one of the 5 launch ultimates, it might be worth buying it if you don't want to wait for the grinding and craft times. I personally plan on buying Ultimate Lepic because even though you get his base version for free right away, he's going to be my main, and I've decided that he was my favorite character after just playing him a ton on the last couple of betas. And these leaked Ultimate launch packs show that they come with an energy activator in it, which is plus 20 mod capacity, kind of the same thing as an Orkan reactor from Warframe. So that's just something to keep in mind if one of those are your main, but I think we'll start this off by talking about most people's main, Bunny. She's easily the most popular and is the first character you craft, so if you wonder why you don't get her as a choice at login, don't worry, she's the first character they make you craft for free to teach you how to build for the MSQ, and you should have her within the first couple hours for free. This is also like the poster character for the game, so the vast majority of people you see will be Bunny mains. I'm also not trying to discourage you by saying that, because I know some people don't like playing the most popular thing. I'm just trying to prepare you because she's honestly really fun. She's very fast-paced, high damage in AoE, and it's great for speedrunning and mobbing. When we tried to push some higher wave operations, she did start feeling fairly squishy, but with the amount of speed you have, it's very easy to dodge most of what's coming at you, and when you get into raids, whenever you have to deal with something, everything just gets way easier when you have a ton of move speed. So early, mid, and late game, you won't have any problems, and she's probably one of the safest characters to main altogether. So playstyle wise, she's based off of 2 resource bars, and you'll be spending mana on Speed of Light to get a fast max on your energy bar that you dump energy into basically everything else. And every time you hit SOL, you do dump your mana fairly fast. But at the early stages of the game, it felt fine to just keep W keying and just spamming every ability and not really thinking about it. So the only thing you really want to focus on is just moving no matter what. If you're lazy, this definitely is not the character for you, but if you're like me and you just need to constantly be moving, jumping, or just like wiggling back and forth, you kind of just get rewarded for that. There's also a few other reasons to play Bunny, but only our large forearm Cottontail VA viewers will be able to truly min-max this one. The second up is going to be Lepic. This is the Mega Man of First Descendant and is probably the most forgiving character to play. He has a free death passive, so you can mindlessly W key through everything and have some of the best mobbing in the game. Traction Grenade has a surprisingly big radius and can suck shooters out of cover, so just comboing that into Overclock with a grenade deals with 99% of trash mobs, making leveling super smooth, and the ultimate just lets you start blasting like Mega Man. I got to try the exclusive mod for this last beta, and I didn't really like it because the base ultimate was just so good, and since you're only able to equip 1 exclusive mod per character, I'm going to end up going with the weapon swapping and reloading mod. Either way, this is my personal favorite, and it's what I'll be maining when the game comes out. So if you're hard stuck on what to play, this is my personal recommendation and the safest option to pick as a starting DPS character that can easily do the vast majority of the game, even without the ultimate version. Now, our next starter character is Ajax. This is the big tanky wall guy, and I think he has the coolest looking base armor out of everyone. Most of his skills do gain bonuses from just having extra HP and defense, which is also two of the mods we recommend getting early on in the Ultimate Beginner Guide, because it just helps curve out some of the unbalanced early game damage, so you don't really have to think about anything, and you can just kind of like W key with your brain off through the main story quest. But most of the time for this character, you just put a wall up, and with enough defense, the mobs will just drain themselves out of HP, and it's great for whenever there's a lot of guns. Just one thing to keep in mind is that if you don't have enough defense or the enemies just out-level you, your shield can pop fairly fast, but your kit is basically just a gap closing stun with AoEs to get you in and shields to keep you alive, with your ultimate letting you massively buff your team's damage later on in the game. So if you want to play a more supporty tank role, he's basically the perfect pick for you. Now, our final starting character is Viessa the Ice Queen. You're basically just going to be spam slowing everything and just getting bonus procs from your passives to do AoE damage. You also have a move speed boost, and frost shards do have very good scaling for nuking, but it's definitely more of a later game character that needs mods to scale. Early on in the beta, when we were trying to push some higher wave stuff, she was extremely mana starved, and with the short to mid-range limitations, she ends up being really squishy because she just relies on slowing the enemies and avoiding damage altogether. So whenever you do get hit by something, you just pop. I also know some people were looking for like a bunny replacement because they just didn't want to play her. And I think you could replace her if you just wanted movement speed from the second ability, and it kind of has the same function for AoE if you were looking for that. But in my more controversial opinion, because I know a lot of people really enjoy her, I think, like, again, this is just my personal opinion and preference, but from the last test experience, she just kind of felt like a weaker Valby, which is also our next character. And if you wanted a true bunny alternative, she's surprisingly fast, and I think that this is just a better option. She also offers the same sus reasons that you would play bunny, but with special moves like plop plop and clean up. Even though every ability is a meme, she's insanely strong. The pools she leaves on the ground are extremely high damage early mid-game and just create complete area denial, and her passive almost makes your abilities free, so you don't have to worry about mana costs early game, letting you spam to your heart's content, and as you scale your ability damage and duration mods, things just keep getting more ridiculous. Your entire kit is based around CCing enemies in the pool, so when you use your ultimate laundry bomb, you get 3 casts of a special grenade launcher that shoots a massive water orb that sucks everything in, so you suck on top of your pools, and you hit them with the plop plop, and you'll get where you need to be. Plop plop CD is also reduced by the amount of things hit by it, so after you pop a massive combo, you can just clean up IRL and feel pretty good about it. This easily felt like one of the best mindless mobbing characters in the entire game, but the biggest selling point for me was honestly just the level of cringe. And don't worry, there's a male equivalent of cringe with the King Chef Blair. Flame up! This is a very combo-focused character and is some of the most fun gameplay, like long-term. You're looking to create as many flame zones as possible to light everything on fire, then you want to suck these in for mana regen and damage, and because the burn effect stays on the enemy, they also have a higher chance to be crit and take more crit damage from skills. So you have super high damage potential for late game. This is also a character that needs a ton of mods to bring out his true potential, because on top of the usual skill, range, and power mods, you'll also need max mana and a full set of defensive mods, because he doesn't have anything to keep himself alive, so you end up in a position where you either have to dodge or face tank everything coming at you. The other reason I talk about late game stuff and mods is because you'll be very resource starved early. We won't have these crazy amount that they gave us on the beta for free, so leveling your mods is going to be like extremely costly, just like it is on Warframe, and it's going to end up taking you a lot of time. But outside of those early game limitations, I think that if you were interested in the chef, you'll be the one running the cookout. Moving on to Mommy Gley, in my opinion, she's the hardest one to play pretty much out of all of them, because she doesn't have shields or mana. You're managing your outgoing damage, damage reduction, and HP between her abilities and thirst, and the lower you are, the more damage you do in a lot of cases. So if you're bad at resource management, I would just write this character off right now, but she's so strong that she got a nerf from one of the beta tests because of how high her damage potential is when she's played properly. So as you pick up more orbs, you fill up the meter at the bottom, you can hold a total of 10 of them, and you spend them on Life Siphon and your ultimate, so you can get your HP low and really just pop off with crazy damage if you have a good rotation, and on the opposite end of that, you can also have crazy damage reduction and spawn a ton of extra life orbs. So toggling Frenzy on and off at the right times is the key to success with this character, and you're also really dependent on your guns pretty much throughout the entire game, not just early, so she can feel kind of clunky at stages where you have a bad weapon, but I personally think that's the best possible summary I could do for her without making like a 10-minute guide about it. You're just really heavily managing your own HP, and there are times where you can just get popped if you do the wrong thing, and I plan on maining her towards the late game, so one of my first big guides is going to be for this character. But in general, if you just want to be extremely sweaty with mommy energy, this is your main. Now, if you want Dommy mommy energy, you have to go with Freyna. Out of all the the characters I played, this was probably the one that made me feel like I had the most control over everything while being extremely easy and fun to play. She has ridiculously high burst damage considering she's supposed to be a dot character, because the more enemies you have infected, the more damage she does. And the dot spreads by itself, so once you get enough range and duration mods, the game just starts playing itself, and really just reminded me of Sharen from Warframe. Except that Freyna's way tankier as long as you keep defense mechanism up, so you have a little bit of everything, and your ultimate can basically just push burn windows by itself. So I think overall this will probably end up being most people's like main meta for pugging as a DPS, because their scaling's really solid and you can kind of just do everything you need to by yourself. But if you're a lone warrior and want to play a true assassin, Sharen will probably end up being your main. I put her later in the video because I know all the bunny mains are already in Comertos and they won't be able to appreciate the bodysuit for what it is. This is the main reason I think most people will play her, but she's also the main assassin character in the game. Her stealth lets you blow pretty much everything up and has surprisingly consistent damage with cutoff beam because you can pop it while you're reloading. And her ultimate flash short sword is interesting. It can pump out crazy damage, but has an extremely long animation sequence, so you need to go invis before you use it. And on the last beta, the swords tracked where the initial target was locked. So if they move, they have trouble following them. And sometimes the UI just bugged out, so hopefully that's fixed with launch, because when they do bug out, they just randomly fire off, so you can't choose what they're going to hit. And I know one of my friends planned on maining her already, so we'll know if that's a problem day one. Early game, you also need to rely on your weapons over skills, but I do think in general that if she is fixed on launch, she will be insanely fun. And if she's not, I guess we have to do a balance feedback talk for this game and hope Nexon looks at it now. As for Jayber, this ends up being your main turret guy, and they're pretty good for controlling areas, but require extremely good positioning because they're super squishy and they could just instantly die to basic enemies if you don't manage them correctly. You also need to be using your third ability constantly to keep these things pumping in their empowered form, and the ultimate gives you an AoE nuke that lets you resummon the turrets in their overcharged state. So on paper, all of this sounds really cool, but in practice it was very clunky, and a lot of the times things just bugged out and stopped working during the last CBT. So I'm not sure what state he'll be in either for launch. But another thing is that he's also just extremely mod dependent on range, power, and cooldown reduction, and really needs to rely on his passive to scale his gun damage. So just keep that in mind when you're getting into him, but I think he will have that weird niche of hybrid support and damage that some people will really like. As for Kyle the controller, he's the main tank of the game and has absolutely ridiculous AoE damage considering you only need to spec into defense and shield to scale up most of his abilities. His main mechanic ends up revolving around an energy bar that you can get up with your dash even if you miss everything, but will mainly be charged with Reinhardt shield that's called Magnetic Bulwark. You can dump your energy bar in two ways. One is by spurting, and this makes it so that your energy bar takes damage instead of your HP, and if it depletes, you just do AoE damage, but if you cancel it early, it replenishes shields to you and the boys. Now, if you do dump all of your energy on your ultimate, you do get like a crazy amount of damage, but make sure that you're out in the open. If Kyle's big ass head hits a roof, it just fizzles and does nothing and eats your entire energy bar. So our big man Kyle is the true tank, and he has some of his own problems, but I think if he's played well, he will hard carry this role. Now, as for these last three, I have no idea what they do. They weren't in any of the betas, but I did go ahead and look at some data mine stuff for them. But again, that only goes so far, and I'm just not trying to sit here reading their abilities to you, just trying to pretend I know what's going on with them when I don't even know what the scalars look like, so I can't even guess or assume how strong they'll be. I will update these in the Google Doc, though, the first chance that I get after I've tested them myself and can give real notes about them. But for now, I'll just explain their tropes, so that way you can just pick off of whatever anime thing you like. So Esiemo is going to be your generic explodey guy that talks big shit, rushes in, and is basically going to be the first guy to die instantly every single time. The amount of bunnies you're going to see just W-keying and dying will probably be the exact same amount of Isiemos. And what I gathered from the data mine is that he's supposed to be immune to explosions, so that's kind of cool. But honestly, I just expect everyone playing this to have cool guys don't look at explosions playing in the background. Enzo also seems like Jayber, but instead of turrets, he has drones, and is just going to be your edgelord support. This is for the people that love helping others but have that tsundere personality. Just from the quick read, being able to give your teammates infinite ammo sounds cool, but there's basically infinite ammo everywhere as long as you play half decent and do the mechanics. Our final character breaks the mold for everyone. I heard people were crying that this was a game for Coomers and there was no femboys, so don't worry, they went ahead and added him last minute. Now everyone going to get something, and he is the only true support healer, so we can only hope he gets a maid outfit instead of a suit. But if we're being honest, most people playing him are just playing him for the same reason that they're playing Bunny, and that covers every character. But one of the big takeaways and main things you need to understand about games like this when you pick your main is there's going to be a group of degenerates that say X character is unplayable, bad, or is just terrible because they're bad at it. It happens all the time on Warframe, and the most important thing you need to do is pick whatever you think is the coolest, because that's what you will have the most fun on, and this is going to be way more grindy than anything else you've played before. It's a Korean grinder looter shooter. I have a lot of experience with these from Lost Ark and BDO, where the grind never ends, and the most important thing is that you should just love playing your main so you can keep playing it as much as possible, and that way as you grind more and more, you'll just unlock everything. The more you can grind, the more hours you can put in while having fun is going to be the main thing that keeps you ahead in this game. So it's one thing to not like a particular character, it's another thing to gatekeep it all together. And if you constantly meta chase, I think that you'll never be able to just master that one character, and then you're just going to end up mid to bad at everything and just quit. So just have fun with the game. Pick the character that speaks to you on a personal level. I'm personally going to be maining Lepic because he's Mega Man, and in all the betas and alphas, he was just my favorite. In late game, Gley will end up being my main ult because she's basically the only Berserker type character with high risk and high reward, and I think she'll have some pretty cool interactions with some of the broken scalers on some of the weapons after all the changes. So let me know what you'll be maining down below, and I look forward to seeing y'all on stream at launch.